recruiting found me. I don't know too many people that say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to grow up and be a recruiter." And I had spent about 25 years, or actually less, about 20 years. I've always been in creative and marketing. So my background has always been from global agency all the way through in-house teams, through startups, through various permutations of opportunities whereby I was liaising with creatives on the marketing side, building teams, and working on whether they would be big brands, direct to consumer brands. But I always understood that language. It was something that was very innate to me. I understood marketing. Not to say that I wasn't always learning about marketing, but it was one of those topics where I was just thirsty and kept drinking from all that fountain of knowledge. And so, constant reader, big podcast listener, love reading other people's content. So I believe I was in a role, and I got a call from a friend, and he said, "We have an opening here at this at on the recruiting side. I think you should talk to these. I think you should talk to these people." So I did, and I was hired like within like a day or so, and it was amazing. Like I loved it, all of it. The hunt, talking to the clients, talking to the candidates, all of it. And then after about 10 years of recruiting for staffing firms, and then went over to the retained search side to Korn Ferry and helped them build out their digital practice. Um, I really had a kind of like a epiphany in the middle of the night kind of thing, and thinking, what's really broken here is that the candidates are underserved. There's only so much that I can do as a recruiter because I'm still incentivized by my company. And my role here is I have to make these placements. And so my motivation is split between what I have to do and what I wish I could do on behalf of that candidate. And so in March of 2020, I launched Portfolio Rocket with the primary intention of being able to serve creatives and marketers who, surprisingly but not surprisingly, were completely confused about what to do with their next steps. They had told me over and over again how they felt like human clickbait. They didn't have the actual language, but they would say things like, "I just don't know how to sell myself." They weren't coming to me and going, "I don't know my story. I don't know what my value proposition is," but they were coming to me and saying, you know, "This is like being in a dark room looking for a light switch. It's like a labyrinth. This whole job search thing is crazy." And so many of my clients had never had to look for a job ever, ever. They had always been found. And even the ones that had, looked for a job, in many cases it was years ago, so they were terrified about re-entering. Other folks were also very concerned about their age impacting the industry, which, in many cases can be very youth obsessed. And they would come and they would, be sad and depressed. Like, I think this is like game over for me. And so it was really amazing to see the level of transparency, and also the level of willingness. Like, I built a system. I spent about 3 months in proof of concept, went back to all of my old clients and said, "What problem can I solve?" And then I went back to the candidates and said, "What do you wish? What do you wish that process could look like? I can't promise you it's going to be overnight, but do you want it to be? What would you want it to be?" And through all of this, I built an end-to-end system. So the first and probably most important point is to really rethink their approach to what seems on the surface to be quick and easy, easy apply button, and start investing in a longer term benefit, which is through the power of building your personal and professional capital. So the relationships really are code for personal and professional capital. And what that means is that as you are building the relationships, as time goes on, there's probably going to be a day when you pick up the phone and call somebody and say, you know what, it's just not working out here. I would love to hear more about where you are, or if you know anybody at this company or that company, and use the currency of referrals. And so when you put an application in and it goes through the applicant tracking system, if you do not move to the next level, you really have nothing to show for it. It's like it's gone. It's gone. There's nothing you can do. It's out of your control. If you go through a referral, you are empowered. You're building the relationship. So the whole notion of empowering your search, being in the driver's seat and not, being passive or even a victim to the process is really what I specialize in, and really what is important for job seekers to know. To that end, 80% of the time building your referrals and 20% on the other side, which would be applying online. What I am seeing is a lot of great, I would call them bonus ways of connecting. So you build a connection on LinkedIn, for example. You write a great intro, or you invest in show me you know me, and you are now in a place where you have been connected, and then using features such as voice notes to say, wow, thanks so much for accepting my invite. I really appreciate that. Here's what I loved about your profile, or here's a YouTube video that really inspired me, or I read this article, and it's a really interesting point that you made over here. And then taking that public conversation to private. So building out that flow from all the conversations on LinkedIn and or any other kind of online forum, and taking it offline. So I am seeing more people using voice notes. I'm seeing them also use more video. And I think that those are amazing ways to really rise above the noise, right? To be able to put a name with a face, to be able to establish some faster rapport, because any hiring manager, any recruiter, anybody who's even acting like a talent scout who could be your referral, you're not more than a name to them in the beginning. So you really want to use some of those newer features, because they're definitely helpful and differentiated. What goes into my thought process is always, how is this going to be useful? How are they going to take action on this right now? Uh, that's my primary piece, and that can be delivered across storytelling, or a poll, or a video, or a range of different deliveries. But I think that the most important thing is, how can this be useful? And then the second thing is, how can it be clear? So it can't be useful until it's abundantly clear what that message is. And I also like to infuse some level of humor, personality, a voice. So it's not just about throwing out the information, it's really about coloring it in a way that speaks to the audience, and also hopefully is engaging in terms of lightening up a mood, or just providing something with a wink. The topics that really resonate with them the most are personal stories. It always boils down to personal stories. I do measure my activity, and the ones that really perform and build a lot of goodwill and excitement are stories about something that happened with my kids, or something that happened with my parents, or something that happened when I got married. So, I mean, those stories are really, really powerful, and they also allow them, I think, to see not only a human side of me, but hopefully a human side of themselves. And that's really what it's all about. And it's really what it's all about. That's what engagement is to me. One person having sharing with another person who's, you know, just another bozo out there in the world, and we're all doing this together. So I really appreciate people coming back with um, personality infused comments. I try to leave them too. Tend to be a little hyperbolic and use emojis and try to make it fun, not just to stand out, but also to really demonstrate a level of enthusiasm. The most important piece of any job search is is really about the kind of unglamorous and also success formula behind consistency. It's hard to stay motivated, which is why a lot of people, kind of get really in it and then they get out of it, and it's not so bad. But that consistency, even if it is a little bit more every day. So, when I say networking 80% of your time, I put metrics around that. So that's 2 virtual coffees a day, 2 a day. It's not enough to say I'm going to do it, but if you don't do 2 that day, that's okay. That's okay. Like, it's okay as long as you get back on it, and maybe do 2 the next day, and maybe do 3 the next day, just to make up for the ones that you didn't do. So just to keep a steady and consistent pace, not get too high or too low, and just keep stay in action. Just stay in action. So many results happen just in the doing.